Hey there everyone, and welcome to complete backend development using Django. So obviously Django is pretty big and we can do a lot of stuff in that, but just for the basics, you know almost everything now that you can create your own projects and can do all this stuff. But there's just one thing which is still missing, which is authentication. Now, authentication is also known as content restriction. You are already aware about the concept. Whenever you want to log in into a website, or you might want to edit something, watch something, there is a login which is like compulsory there, and it is a good thing. But in order to have a login, things need to be planned in advance, that what kind of things that you want to show to the user without login and what kind of things you want to not show them without login. So in order to understand the basic inbuilt login feature of Django, we're going to work here. And obviously things can be improved and do the stuff, but we're going to stick to the basics of the Django and we're going to work on that. Now, in order to have this, I will be working on this 04 project 4. And the reason behind I'll be working with that is if you go into the templates folder here, you're going to see the base, detail, and home. The reason why I'm working on this project as a further is simply because it is already broken down into various templates, and for making sure that you have a login and authentication, it is important to have template in such a level, because obviously we are going to be using if and else condition. If a user is logged in, show him this. If user is not logged in, show him that, and all that stuff. So it is much more easier here to understand these stuff. Okay, so we'll be just working on that. We will not be touching this existing file. We're going to be creating in kind of a copy of this one. So we're going to call this as 08 project 8. There we go. And in this project 8, I'm going to go into 04, copy this entire website, and we're going to go back into 08 project 8 and we're going to paste that. Okay, so let me just restart my Atom. It was already open with some other project. So let me fire up my Atom. There we go. We're going to drag and drop this website here so that it opens up the things. Looks pretty good. And what else we are having? So we are having one more thing, which is our login.css, and this is something that I have written, and you can simply copy and paste it. First of all, let's go ahead and run this project. Let's clean the screen. We're going to go into Django exercise 08 project 8 website and do a quick ls. Obviously manage.py file is there, so we can simply run that. Python 3 manage.py run server. There we go. Okay, and we can simply copy this and run that into our browser. There we go, and this is how it looks. And obviously yours might not be looking like this. This is something I was working on. And just right click and empty the cache. What you have to do is right click and click on the inspect, and then you will be able to right click on the reload and will be able to unlock these options and hit on the empty cache and hard reload, so that you can see how exactly this is going to look like. This happens to like all of the projects. Sometimes you have to hit a hard reload. Caches are not easy to clear up. Now let's go back onto your exercise file. Click on this login.css, open it up with any editor including Sublime Text, and all we have to do is copy that, go into your project. Let's close. A lot of things are opened up, and you have to open up your static css and base style.css. Just select all of that and replace that, and now you can hit a reload. Again, right click, click on the inspect, and then hit empty cache and hard reload. I don't know why it's behaving like that, but this is how it is. And now it's looking a little bit better as compared to what we were having. Not amazingly good, but it's like decent one. It's at least better than what we were having. So this is what we are having, and we're gonna apply a login thing here. It's actually very easy to apply the login functionality. Just for the sake of like difference, I'm having a few different things here. Okay, so let's proceed how we are gonna work on the login things here, and we're gonna work on the like basic one here. So first and foremost things, we need to open up our urls.py, the project level. In this case, it's in the website and it's url.py. Also open up your settings.py, and I wanted to show you a couple of things which we haven't discussed. The first one is this debug equals true. Now we have to turn this off as debug equals false before we just upload that. And I have not talked about it much because we are not uploading the project as of now, but this helps us to debug. If you just turn it off, it just shows you like 404 page. We are going to make a couple of mistakes and we're going to work on that. So deliberate mistakes, of course. And you can also see that Django comes up with a couple of like pre-installed app. We have already worked on the admin. Now we're going to work on this. This is django.contrib.auth. So we're going to be working on that. So copy this from here, from settings.py. Now go to your urls.py and just go on to here. And oops, don't paste that right now. We're going to set a path. And that path is going to be accounts, and make sure you put a slash there as well. This is important. All the slashes are important. And we're going to say include, and then the include is going to be in the single quotes, this django.contrib.auth.urls. Okay, make sure you put a comma there as well. Okay, now this is not done. We need to do a couple of steps, but I wanted to show you a couple of stuff. Let's go on to this and hit enter, and it's going to be working. Let's just go on to accounts/login. And notice here you are seeing the things, the template does not exist, account login. So it's giving you a lot of information here. This is all the debugging information, okay? This is what we are talking about when we are saying that, hey, you know what, in the settings.py, it is saved as true, okay? You can change that to false. Save that, and now if you go on to page like this, oops, do we need to reset the URL? And you know what, you must set settings allowed host if debug is false. So obviously we have to make a couple of more changes here. That is allowed host as well, so we can just mention our localhost URL here. But I think it's not a good point to discuss more about it. Just wanted to show you that this is what we have to do. And once you mention the allowed host, like your local host, then it's going to show you like default 404 page, and you won't be getting these information. Okay, so this is like basic stuff. We need to restart the server here again. Okay, so I hope this is working now. Okay, there we go. So don't worry too much about these templatings when these are not available. Just wanted to show you a couple of things that people are worried a little bit. Okay, so this is what we are having. We have changed these things as accounts. The only thing we have done. Now in the next video, we are going to create our login template and we're going to make sure that our login is working there. Okay, so that's it for this video, and let's catch up in the next one. Hey there everyone, and welcome to complete backend development using Django. So far we have set up our URL, and that's pretty much it. Now let's go ahead and talk about how we can design our login page. Now when you set up this login auth URLs here, by default the Django framework looks for this login page into the templates directory. Now since we have made a change in the settings.py that our default template directory is a little bit different, that's why it's going to look it into different. But if you want to have an app level authentication, you can also mention that, and we have already talked about the default template and all of that. So into the templates, just right click and create a new folder with the name of registration. Make sure it is registration, and nope, I don't want file. Right click and new folder, and that is going to be registration, and make sure it's just registration, not registrations with an S. Okay, just registration. This is like the most common mistake everybody does, so that's why I'm emphasizing quite a lot here. And then you can simply have a login.html. Again, these are the default name for which the Django is already looking up. That's why we are having it. Obviously we can change that, but right now let's just not focus much on that. So having a login page is pretty easy. We are going to be using our existing like same template for our home.html kind of a thing. We can just even copy this and can paste that in our login.html, and we can actually get rid of this inside part. Okay, so we have extended, and we do have an empty block content. Obviously you could have typed that, but being lazy sometime. Okay, so we're gonna have a simple h3 block here, and we're gonna say this is a login page, something like that, making it extra fantasies there. And then obviously we need a form, We don't need action here because it is already being taken care. We just need a method there, and that is post. And you all know, whenever we are going to put a form, what do we put? Yep, we put a CSRF token. CSRF underscore token. And we need to use an underscore token. Okay. Now that your CSRF token is applied, we're going to use the default Django form without, that's the ugly one, but that's what we are going to be using. So it's just really simple. You just simply have to say form dot as underscore p. There we go. So it's just putting everything into a paragraph, and that's pretty much your form. Next, we need a button to submit the things. So button, and this button needs to have a type, and the type is going to be submit. And I'm gonna just say something like login me or whatever you want to say. So this is our basically form that we are having. Okay, so is it what you really want to have a form? That's it? No, there is one more thing, and I promise this is the final one. Once you have got your URL set, once you have got your templates being set, then again you have to go into websites, the project level, and then go to settings.py. Okay, go to the very bottom of it, wherever you can find the empty space, and you have to write this line. This should be exactly, which is login underscore redirect underscore URL, and that URL should be equal to wherever you want to point it. In this case, where I want to point it is inside the articles. Inside my urls.py, I have a URL named home. This is where I want to point this after the login. Okay, you can change that. Obviously, this is what I want to do right now, so I'm going to be putting that. Now, the reason why I have showed you by opening this, because I want you to make sure that you are aware that from where actually this home is coming up. This is super important. Okay, so this is all what we are having. Now, again, we haven't done anything to restrict any content in the home.html or something. We will be working on that. Right now we just want our things to be working. Okay, so we're gonna go first of all into this. This is working absolutely fine. Now go into /accounts/login, hit enter. There you go. You see a very ugly page which says username and password, and we're gonna have that. Now obviously in the previous project, when we were doing the things, we have created a super user. We are gonna log in from that user, and I happen to remember that still. This was Hitesh, and the password, there we go, my password, and hit me login me, and there we go. We are redirected back to our home page. This happened because we made a setting in the settings.py file. We made login redirect login underscore redirect underscore URL equals home. Okay, so this is it. We haven't learned how we can restrict the content and all of that. So in the next video, we're going to learn how we can restrict the content and can find out whether user is logged in or not. Obviously, you can hide all of this content or maybe partially of that. We're going to work on that. Okay, it's not at all a big deal. It's just an if and else condition. That's it. So in the next video, let's talk about the restriction of the content. That's it for this video, and let's catch up in the next one. Hey there everyone, and welcome to Complete Backend Development using Django. So now it's time that we go ahead and make some updates in our home page so that some part can only be seen if the user is like authenticated. Otherwise, he can just see these blogs. Okay, so let's just go ahead and go into here, and I can close a couple of files here. It's making a little bit things confusing. So there we go. Okay. All good. Now open up your templates. We can close the registration even, and we are gonna go in our let's just move into base.html. Okay, so this is where things are going. Now this is our blog content, which is getting replaced by our home.html, but we're gonna add or put some of our logic so that if user is authenticated, then only he can see some of these stuff. Okay, so how does that work? It's really simple, amazingly simple. Use 2% sign there, and you just have to use simple if and else. Django is so simple to work. And with that, if you noticed in the settings.py, this authentication gives us this gives us another object, which is user. That exactly what we'll be using here. It automatically gives it to you. We're gonna say if user dot is underscore authenticated. So if user is authenticated, this guy returns you a true and false, and based on that you can somewhat like take actions. So we're going to put a simple paragraph, and I'm going to say that you are logged in, and I think that is good. So we're going to put something like one more paragraph, and we're going to say, hey there, and just use a username here. This is also being given by user. It's really simple. It's user.username. Okay, and we're gonna write howdy, so something like that. I stole that from WordPress, howdy. So that's what we are having. So this is all gonna look like if user is authenticated, and if user is not authenticated, then what we are gonna do, we can use an else clause. That is one thing. So we're gonna say %, and we're gonna say else, and in the else part we are gonna say, let's just say, use a paragraph, you are not logged in, and instead of just printing his name, obviously we cannot print his name, we are gonna just say please, oops, I can write that, I'm pretty sure of that, please, and then in the anchor tag we are gonna say please log in here. Okay, now this needs to go somewhere, and Django is super awesome and super easy to do these stuff, and all you have to write is URL and then simply use login. Okay, make sure quotes are there, otherwise it's not gonna work. And regardless of whatever happens, we want to show the user all of the content on the block content, so that's easy part, and we just have to end this. So we're gonna simply use a %, and we're gonna say end if. Now obviously we can plan on the things about how the block content should be visible or not visible, but because if we are going to hide the block content into the else clause, then certainly one thing is going to happen, which is you will not also be able to see this, because this is also a block content, so you will not be able to see your login. Okay, I'll make sure that you understand that in a minute, but I think this is it what we want to change. And server restarted successfully, that's good, and we can hit a reload there, and there we go, it says you are logged in. Hey there Hitesh, howdy. And we forgot one thing, we forgot to add the logout URL, otherwise how we're gonna make sure that this is working. So let's just do that, and we're gonna add a logout URL. This will be only visible to person who is logged in, makes sense. So we're gonna put a paragraph and please, and we're going to put an anchor tag there, and this is going to say log out here. Okay, there we go, and this is going to redirect to a place, so use $, and again it's really super easy. You have to say just URL, then in the quotes this is the URL for that, logout, and that's it. That's pretty much it. So let's just go back, and you might be thinking, hey, is it so easy? Yeah, it's actually Django, it's that much easy. So it says please log out here once we missed out a couple of things. I'll talk about that in a minute, but right now if we log out, it's going to redirect us to the admin area. Don't worry about that, we're going to change that. There we go, it redirects us to Django admin. We can hit a login again. It's gonna give us a login panel from this guy, which we don't want to be seen, but we can change that. Obviously we will change that, of course. It says you are not logged in, please log in here. If I go back to login, there we go, our login is working. I'm gonna put a login and my password, hit login, and there we go, we are redirected back and we can see the logout. So it's pretty easy. And you know what I was talking about, if we are gonna put this into like this block content should be only visible to the person who are logged in, then it's going to be trouble because we haven't designed this application in that manner. Just to give you an example, I'm going to cut this and I'm going to paste that here into the if block. Now what is going to happen, if you are logged in, then only you are able to see this block content, and since you are not logged in, you'll not be able to see. And since our login is also designed so that it appears inside the block content, that's why you'll not be able to see that. So let me show you what difference does it make. Hit a reload and hit a logout there. That's all fine, but you'll not be able to see. This is what we are having. If we go to login, see, notice nothing is coming up. You are already into the login page. And this is all happening because we have restricted our blog content here. So it needs to be redesigned in a much more efficient manner. And this is absolutely a bizarre thing that we have done. But again, you got the point. So we're going to just move that out of this end if, so that no matter what happens, this content is available. Okay. But there is a serious situation, and which is when I log out, it redirects me to the admin area, which I don't want. And Django is actually super helpful and super easy in getting rid of that as well. So you can go into your settings.py, go to the very bottom where we wrote login redirect URL. You can mention the logout redirect URL as well. That is really simple. You simply have to say logout redirect _URL and just point it wherever you like. In this case, I'm gonna just throw it back to home, and I think this is gonna resolve our situation. So what's a good way? Just test it out. So we're gonna log in again. This is so fun. And we are gonna say our password and login. There we go. Let's hit a logout, and there we go. Finally, it's working. User is never being redirected to admin. Obviously, we can move the admin as well. No big deal. Let's try that one more time. And it is, I know this is fun. And let's just say login me. There we go. And it shows my name. And we are gonna hit a logout. So there we go. This was like pretty basic stuff that we have learned so far, and it was so cool. But right now user cannot actually sign up, and we need to work out on so that new user can sign up. That is also pretty easy, and based on that you can manage the users as well. So you know what, let's just go ahead and talk about the sign up and the user creation form process as well. So we're going to do that in the next video. So that's it for this one, and let's catch up in the next one. Hey there everyone, and welcome to complete backend development using Django. So we have learned about the login and stuff, and it was pretty easy. But honestly, if I just say, sign up is not that easy. We have to create our apps and stuff like that. But again, Django makes it again easier for us by providing us some inbuilt classes. And one of the class that we are going to use is user creation form. And that is going to make our life easier. But again, we have to create an app and all of that. We go through with that. So it's all about that. So let's just go back onto this, and we are already having one app. Let me show you that. We are already having one app, which is articles, and this is our like main app. This is not user registration. We have to create another one. So we're going to kill that server, do a quick ls, make sure the manage.py file is here, because this file is actually responsible for creating stuff. So manage.py, and what we want to do is a start new app. And we're going to call this as start app. Call it whatever you like. I usually call it as accounts in all of my projects, but feel free to call it as user accounts or whatever you like. So I usually call it as accounts. So hit that. And now this account is being created. You all know what we do whenever a new app is being created. Go into our main project. We go into the settings.py and make sure that our project is aware of the app that we are creating. So previously we created articles, and now we are creating accounts. So make sure it is aware of that. That's it. So accounts, I hope I wrote that correctly. Okay. Now this is here. So we need to go on to our URLs and make sure that URL is also aware that there is a new account. So go into the urls.py. And we already do have accounts. That is why I always create that with the name of accounts, because in the accounts there is a login, and in the accounts I'm going to create a sign up as well. Okay, so that's why I call this as account. Otherwise there will be two separate URL accounts for login and user accounts for sign up. I just want them to be same. Okay, and this is going to be again same. We simply can say accounts, make sure there's a slash there as well, and then separated by comma we can simply say include. And this is going to be simply including our accounts.urls. Of course, the URLs is not there. We need to create that, but I think you already know that. Okay, so this is pretty good. Now, the next step is just close this website, and we are going to go into accounts, and we need to create a new file, obviously. right click here, new files, and that is urls.py. Pretty easy stuff. And just to make sure that we don't make any mistake, we're going to copy this and we'll paste that. Okay, obviously we don't need admin, so we're going to get rid of that. And we just need one path here, so we're going to just kind of get rid of this, and we're going to get rid of these as well. We're just going to keep one, and that path is just sign up. So sign up is here, or whatever in that case you might want to call that up. We are going to get rid of that even. We don't need that. In fact, we don't need include, so let's just clean that up. I could have typed that. So we're going to have a views, and this views is sign up view, like whatever you want to call that, and that is going to be served as view. There we go. And of course it should have a name so that we can just redirect things to it, and that name is going to be equal to sign up. There we go. So this is all done, and obviously we don't have view. So you guessed it right, we need to create a view. So go into views.py. In fact, you can just copy this sign up view, copy that, go into views.py and create your view. And that is actually pretty simple. You can also do that. Sign up view. What does it take? Now, usually we just say like things like create view and user. We have been working on that, but here we have to import some stuff, okay, before we work on that. And just like previously, when you'll be working on creating again and again these projects, this will become a kind of a next nature to you. So we're going to say not import, we're going to say from Django.views, and we are going to import generic. Import generic. We need to import our user creation form so that we don't have to work on that. And that is going to be coming up from Django.contrib.auth.url no, .form. Okay, my bad. Forms. We are going to import this user creation form. User creation. It's so hard to write and talk at the same time sometimes. And just to make sure that I have typed it correctly, I'm going to go back into settings.py. And I'm going to just copy this. Django contrib auth. This is the form where it comes from. So I'm going to be just replacing it that and put a dot forms. Okay, so this is all coming up really all good. And did you remember once we talked about the reverse_lazy? We are going to need that as well. And you all know it comes from the URLs, Django URLs. So Django.urls. Import reverse_lazy. So okay, so we are importing a tons of things. I get that. Okay, and the reason why we are doing that, because this generic and this user creation forms works hand in hand. They both are required, and they will be passed, both of them, here in the sign up view. That's how I remember them. So it just simply says generic dot, and then you simply say create a view. Okay, so we are creating a generic view first of all, and then once the generic view is being created, the first thing that you have to do is call this user creation form. So I'm going to copy that, and you have to make sure you call it exactly like form_class is going to be equal to this user creation form, and that's it. Your form is created. Sounds a little bit crazy, but yeah, that's simple. Then you have to mention your success URL. Success_URL. And what is your success URL? If the user has created, then we'll ask user to log in. You can also redirect him to like maybe to home, but I think we should redirect him to login. So we're going to call this reverse_lazy, and pass on wherever you want to redirect him. In this case, I want him to go to login. The reason why we are using here is reverse lazy is because it's a lazy. Until and unless the form is being processed, authenticated, user is being created, it's not going to move that here. That's why we are using lazy here. Okay. And then simply we need to say template_name. Name is going to be equal to whatever the name you have it. In this case, signup.html. Obviously, we haven't created that. Okay. So there we go. So our view is ready, and now it's expecting this signup.html to be created inside the templates. So inside this app we can just go simply and create that. Obviously all of our templates are being fetched directly from here, so with no exception we're going to create our signup.html here. So let's just right click and create a new file that says signup.html. It should be absolutely simple to create that, and we can just borrow some content here. I think we should borrow some of the content here. So let's just copy that, paste that, and this looks all good. And what are the things that we can get rid of this? We can simply say this is a sign up page, and the form is looking all rock solid, and this is like form, which is having method post, CSR token is there, form underscore p is there. We are having a submit as well. I think instead of login me, we're gonna say sign up me, and the form is here, block content is here. So I think we don't need to do any changes. It was a good idea to copy from login.html. Okay, so this sounds all pretty good, and if all looks good, we should be able to log in, or we made a mess. Let's just see, time will tell. Run server. Okay, so we are missing one position here in accounts, include accounts.url. So in our accounts.url we are missing something. So let's just see what we are missing. View. Okay, we forgot to import the views. Okay, that is why. So let's just go back into our accounts, and obviously we forgot to import the views here, so nice catch there. Okay, so we're gonna say from this current we're gonna import views, and just like always, I never expect my code to be running at the very first time. Let's just try that again, and okay, and it says something is missing. Accounts include, we are again missing a view. We just wrote the view here, and I think it's all looking good. And let's just say we wrote it here, and this guy we don't need it here, so I think it's all good. Let's just try that again. Control C, run that again. Okay, let me point out where the mistake is. It was a terrible mistake. I get that. It says the mistake is in line number 22 or whatever that is. It's in the website URL. So I went again into the website URLs, looked it here, and notice there is a single bracket and there are two brackets. And why this is happening? Because I actually closed the bracket in just accounts here. So again, terrible mistake. You might have already pointed out when I was working on that. So just go ahead and place that. I know this is really tough to debug sometimes, but Django is super helpful. So now the server is working fine. And yes, always debugging is a part of what you are working. So copy that. And let's just go back here, and I hope everybody knows what is the URL for sign up. Don't expect much thing from the Django. It's a terrible sign up page. So we're going to go into accounts, and instead of the login we do have a view which is sign up. Okay, and yes, by default Django asks you to just have all of these things. You should have a username, and it just gives you all these letters, and then password, and you have to match the password. So let's just get a new user here. So we're gonna say Batman is new user, and we're gonna have a password for Batman. Filling up all these information, it should like follow up all the instruction, and my password does. So let's just go ahead and sign up me. There we go. It was a sign up, and obviously I don't want to say Batman. Username, let's just say Batman, and password. And let's just log in, and obviously Batman is login here. We can log out the Batman as well. So that's it. And I know it's a kind of a terrible page for having this Django default one, but again, this is all about the authentication. Now you can work on with that. Of course, there are a lot of third-party things that you should be aware of the Django, like login with the Facebook or GitHub or Twitter and all of that. But again, we cannot cover all of the things in just one course. It's already too long here. We have been here. But again, the goal was to make sure that you are fully comfortable with Django. And obviously in the future, we'll be creating courses which are specifically oriented in creating just 1 or 2 projects that will deep dive into the login with Facebook and all such crazy stuff, which is super fun. So I would say this is our last project for this particular Django course. And please do keep check up again and again. We do roll out courses every now and then. So I hope you have enjoyed this course as well. So that's it for this video, and surely one more time, I'll catch you up in the next video.